I'm Patrick Anderson. We're here at the EV Charging Summit. I'm with EVexplored / the Mach-E vlog. Today, our next guest is Matthew Pereira, and you're from ChargeWonder. Your booth's right over there. I can see it, so that helps me cheat. You want to introduce yourself as well as the company?
Sure. Well, thanks for having me, Patrick. I'm the CEO and founder of ChargeWonder, and our company is focused on finding ways to drive ancillary revenue for charge point operators. And we're also here to make sure that we can improve the experience for people who charge frequently at EV charging stations and offer loyalty programs for charging station operators and really help them manage their stations better. We hope in doing all of this that we can inspire those charging station operators to find more places where they could operate profitably and then ultimately open more stations, so benefit everybody around the ecosystem.
Yeah, it sounds like you're trying to create a win-win-win situation. Yeah. So it's like the person that puts in the charger could win, but me as an EV driver, I can win as well because I'm going to have maybe some loyalty rewards points or discounts or something like that. But also you actually mentioned something I thought was key that I didn't think about, but you're saying improving the charging experience. Now, how can you do that just by offering incentives?
Yeah. So, you know that when you go to a charging station, typically you're talking about being there for a long time, right? So, from the driver's standpoint, we offer a few different ways that experience is going to get better. The first is, we're really building a community at that charging station site, and it's a community that's actually powered by AI and the some knowledge of everybody else who's at the site. We're trying to really synthesize all the information that other people want to contribute to the community to say, this is what I like to do at that site. This is my favorite place to get a coffee, or this is my favorite place to buy vintage records, and also the things that they know from driving that type of EV. My Hyundai Ioniq had this type of issue with the steering wheel after month 3, and this is how I resolved it. It took me 3 months to figure that out on the forum, and now I'm going to give it to you faster. So all of that kind of comes with you as you kind of chat with our agent to learn more about what's good at the site. On top of that, the rewarding piece, right? The deals and offers platform. So what we're doing there is really using what we've learned about you and your interests to surface things that are appealing at the station that we've found with our partners, that they're willing to give offers around. So we know that at some point in that experience, you're not going to be waiting in line. You're going to be actually plugged in and ready to get out of your car and go explore the neighborhood. So we're surfacing what in the neighborhood is available for you based on your interests. Are you a vegan? Do you love chocolate? What's there and who wants you to come into their store?
And it sounds like you're building some intelligence into it. So if I pull into a charging station and it's 8 o'clock in the morning, you're going to more likely suggest maybe coffee than if it were 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah, exactly. One of our example prompts that we show is hey, do you want to know what's good for other Hyundai Ioniq 5 drivers here at midnight at this station, on Sepulveda Boulevard?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because I think that's one of the things, especially if you're not familiar with the area, you don't necessarily know what's around, and you can start looking on Google Maps or Apple Maps or whatever. But it's sort of it has a nice way. I think one of the key words you mentioned is community.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you're also, the EV drivers are the community, but the business owners in that area are community. And I know specifically there's one charging station, I won't mention where it's at or the business that opposes it, but they're sort of upset that somebody put in chargers right by their business, which I find odd, but it makes me not want to visit that business.
Huh.
Yeah.
I think I'd feel the same way. And, it's interesting. There's this, last year, a lot of people were talking about this study at MIT that talked about they did this multi-year review of all the economic activity that was happening within a 1 kilometer or 1.5 kilometer radius of charging stations, and they statistically proved that there's a boost to the income generated by small businesses and all businesses of all size around the charging station, within a certain walking distance. And so what we're trying to do is actually channel that activity to specific stores and retailers and experiences that want to partner with us.
It makes a lot of sense. I know in Colorado, the Department of Tourism has sort of figured this out, and so like they're like tourist corridors, as they call them. I believe they call them that. They're trying to get EV charging stations put in, but it seems like they should partner with somebody like you, so that you can sort of like incentivize in those little towns that are out in the Colorado mountains to build that community, businesses that support tourism, that want people while their car is charging to come over and say hi.
Yeah, and actually like getting people to go to specific places is actually another part of what we're doing. We think about that from the standpoint of, when you're a charging station operator running a network, what we see a lot of the time is that there's, people talk about like the average utilization of a charging station, something like 15% or 20%, like that's what the operator needs to see like a break even on their investment. But in reality, there's a lot of like asymmetry, right? Like some stations are like way overutilized. We've all been to those stations. You wait in line for an hour. Some stations are just on the wrong side of the street or dimly lit, and nobody wants to use them. Those are, you rarely see a car there. So what we want to do is also get people to go from like the overutilized stations to the underutilized stations and use this combination of like what we know about what consumers want to encourage them to go to that station, that underutilized station. So it's this helpful, assistive kind of nudging to get them to like go somewhere where the experience will be better for them and where the charging station operator will see a benefit.
Yeah, as an EV driver, that's the part that to me, it's like, I want the guy to make money or the network owner to make money. But I don't want to go to a crowded charger. So I sort of like that, is like, help me find the ones where I'm likely to be able to get a charge and I have to wait. So I appreciate that aspect of it. Even if I don't even care about all the other incentives, that's an incentive enough for me as an EV driver.
Yeah. And like the great thing about it is like, you mentioned a lot of the time, like this would be good for people who are kind of new to an area. What we find a lot of the time is that people also, they consider themselves experts or they are experts in an area, but there's stuff that they could also be taught too. Or even, in a certain area, I think a lot about, in LA, I've spent a lot of time looking at charging stations like all over the county. And there's a particular one in Burbank, in Electrify America. It's famous. In fact, Rob Barossa, the CEO of Electrify America, once testified before the California Air Resources Board, and he said, like, this is the busiest station in the country. We've got 80% utilization. I've looked at this at 2 a.m. and it's full. And he's right. I've been there at all hours and seen lines waiting. But there is another Electrify America less than 2 miles away, not at a Walmart, and it's not quite as big, but nobody goes there. It's rarely backed up. I mean, maybe it's got 1 or 2 cars. Now I'm giving it away for everybody who's listening. But, like that's an example, right? Where it's like you've got people who just have this habitual behavior and really just expect to go and wait in line for an hour. Why not tell them, hey, we know you're here all the time, but guess what? You could go 2 miles away, 10-minute, 5-minute drive, depending on the traffic. And, you'll be able to charge. You'll be able to get this whole thing done in 45 minutes. And on top of that, maybe we'll give you a free cup of coffee.
I'm all for that. I'm all for the coffee, especially at the end of a long day at the show.
Right. We could both use one.
Now, the next big question, of course, like when can I see this app on my phone, and like where can I find these chargers? Like what are the next steps? I'm assuming you're making good connections here to make that possible.
Yeah, so after the show, you're going to see it in dozens of new apps showing up all of a sudden. No, so actually we're not running our own app. It's important to point that out, because like we really do know that most EV drivers have 10 apps on their phones already.
Let me count them right now.
Yeah, and we do not want to be that next burdensome app on your phone. So we specifically, with everyone we're working with, we want to be like just another layer of software that's like easy to integrate. We're just a text-based platform for the loyalty piece, and we're a simple SDK to integrate into your stack for ad serving. And so we're working with operators both in the US and the UK right now. And we're focused primarily on smaller scale players. We're not necessarily yet with the Electrify Americas and the EVgo's of the world, but who knows?
You need to talk to Rob Barossa about that disparity. And why he could use this.
Is he here? Is he here yet?
He is not here, no.
Okay.
There is EA floating around. They're not actually here, but...
I'm going to go see if I can find them tomorrow, because like I know some busy stations.
Yeah, and you know, not to get off topic, but EA is doing that like surcharge, or not surcharge, stopping people at 85% at certain locations. See, this is a better way. It's like instead of the stick, reward
for the carrot. Exactly. Yeah.
Well, I'm excited to see this. You know, I'm assuming you'll be updating as soon as you know, you actually make some connections, and we may see this in apps. I would love to like try it out with whoever that may be. So we'll stay in touch, and you know,
you know, continue to like follow us at ChargeWonder.com and check us out on social media, where we have all the ChargeWonder hashtags, and we'll keep you posted on where we're showing up next.
That sounds exciting. I love that you guys are here. I love that you're sort of thinking outside the box, new creative ways. I think this is sort of the best thing that I've seen about the EV Charging Summit is we're seeing things that are like, okay, now that we have charging becoming more reliable and more spread out, now let's get to the next level and be a little bit creative about it. So thank you for being here, and thank you for sharing some time with us.